The news broke like a thunderclap, loud, sudden, and impossible to ignore. A leaked report claimed that Caitriona Balfe had fired back at her husband Tony McGill during a heated confrontation revolving entirely around Sam Heughan. Fans had seen tension before, rumors before, speculation before, but never anything like this. This time, the clash felt historic, explosive, like something years in the making had finally snapped. Social media erupted instantly. Hashtags like #Kate vs Tony, #Sam Heughan drama, and #historic clash flooded timelines as fans scrambled for context. No one understood how a seemingly private marriage had suddenly collided with one of the most talked about on-screen partnerships of the decade. People rushed to piece together the timeline, looking for signs they may have missed. The internet turned into a battlefield of theories and emotional reactions. The clash had already become bigger than any of them. Behind the dramatic headlines, sources described one root cause. Tony had grown increasingly uneasy about Caitriona's deep connection with Sam, a bond that had only intensified with time. Fans had always sensed it, an emotional gravity between the two that neither fame, distance, nor marriage ever seemed to weaken. Insiders claimed Tony had been bottling his concerns for months, maybe even years. Something recent had pushed him past his breaking point. The spark reportedly came from a newly leaked behind-the-scenes clip showing Sam and Caitriona sharing a moment that some viewers described as too intimate for co-stars. In the footage, Caitriona was visibly distressed about something, and Sam gently touched her arm, speaking softly until she smiled again. The clip wasn't scandalous on its own, but the emotional sincerity between them was impossible to miss. For Tony, that seemed to be the last straw. Sources say Tony confronted Caitriona that night, demanding answers he had never dared to voice before. He questioned why her emotional connection with Sam appeared stronger than ever, even after 12 years. He pointed to the video as proof that boundaries had been blurred beyond what he found acceptable. His voice rose, frustration spilling out after years of silence. The confrontation was no longer avoidable. But the shock came when Caitriona didn't stay quiet. She pushed back harder than anyone expected. Rather than trying to calm Tony, she reportedly defended Sam with a firmness that stunned him. She insisted that Sam had been there for her through situations Tony would never fully understand. She made it clear that their connection wasn't something she would apologize for. Her words hit Tony harder than any accusation. Those close to the couple revealed that Caitriona's response escalated the situation immediately. She told Tony he had no right to question Sam's intentions, emphasizing that Sam had always respected their marriage. Tony didn't seem convinced, arguing that even if Sam respected the boundaries, the public perception, and Caitriona's emotional reliance on him, told a different story. Caitriona, already exhausted by online pressure, snapped. Insiders claim she told Tony that his insecurity was hurting their relationship more than anything Sam had ever done. She reminded him of how often Sam had supported her during her hardest career moments, and how much she valued him not just as a co-star but as someone who had walked beside her through emotional terrain Tony never witnessed. Tony reportedly fell silent, blindsided by her honesty. For the first time, Caitriona wasn't shielding anyone's feelings. What made the fight historic wasn't just the intensity. It was the fact that Caitriona openly chose to defend Sam rather than diffuse Tony's frustration. It was a turning point, a crack in the facade of a private marriage that had always appeared calm and controlled. Fans speculated that Caitriona had finally reached her limit, no longer willing to let her connection with Sam be treated like a threat. The shift was undeniable. Witnesses said the atmosphere in the room was electric with tension, neither of them backing down. Tony questioned whether Caitriona realized how her loyalty to Sam appeared to the world. Caitriona countered by asking Tony whether he understood what Sam meant to her, not romantically, but deeply, emotionally, in ways she couldn't easily articulate. The confrontation had become more than a disagreement, it had become a collision of identities and truths. A close associate later told a journalist, "It was the most intense argument they've ever had. It wasn't about jealousy, it was about years of unspoken feelings finally coming to the surface." The comment spread fast, feeding the narrative that this wasn't a one-time explosion but the culmination of a decade of pressure. Fans braced themselves for what might come next. Just when it looked like things had reached their breaking point, an insider leaked one final detail. Caitriona said something in that argument that Tony wasn't prepared to hear. Something that changed the tone of the clash entirely. And whatever she said is now at the center of global speculation, setting the stage for the next chapter in a drama no one expected to witness. The moment Caitriona's words hit Tony, the room fell into a stunned silence. He hadn't expected her to defend Sam so fiercely, nor had he imagined she'd speak with such raw frustration. It wasn't anger directed at him, it was exhaustion, bottled up after years of carrying the weight of public scrutiny and emotional loyalty. Tony stood frozen, trying to process what she had just said. The shift in their dynamic was undeniable. According to someone close to the situation, Caitriona didn't stop there. She confronted Tony about his long-standing discomfort with Sam, something she had noticed but tried to ignore for the sake of peace. She reminded him of the countless moments Sam had supported her, not because of romance, but because of the emotional intensity of their work. She pointed out that her partnership with Sam had shaped her career and changed her life. Tony had never been able to fully grasp that connection. What truly shook Tony was when Caitriona told him he was misunderstanding the entire foundation of her relationship with Sam. She said Sam wasn't a threat, he was a constant, a stabilizing presence she leaned on through the chaos of fame and pressure. Her voice reportedly cracked as she admitted that Sam had been there for her in moments when the industry nearly broke her. Tony's frustration collided with her vulnerability, creating an emotional clash neither had prepared for. At that point, Tony responded with hurt rather than anger. He asked Caitriona whether she realized how her intense loyalty to Sam looked from the outside. He said he felt overshadowed, not by Sam as a person, but by the weight of the bond she shared with him. A bond Tony believed he could never compete with. Caitriona's expression softened, but she didn't back down. She told him that the bond existed long before the marriage and wouldn't disappear simply because it made others uncomfortable. The emotional temperature in the room rose again when Tony questioned whether Caitriona had ever fully separated her professional life from her personal one. She replied quietly, "You knew who I was and who I trusted most, long before you married me." The remark cut deeper than she intended, but it was the truth she had never dared to say aloud. The air grew thick with unspoken meaning. While the confrontation grew more intense behind closed doors, the outside world was descending into chaos. Reporters analyzed the leaked details line by line, and several entertainment outlets speculated that Caitriona's fierce defense of Sam revealed deeper feelings. Fans were divided, some praising her loyalty, others blaming Tony for not understanding the complexity of her bond with Sam. The narrative had spiraled far beyond any of their control. A new wave of shock hit the internet when an insider leaked the exact sentence that reportedly stunned Tony into silence. According to the source, Caitriona told him, "You don't get to attack Sam for being there for me when you weren't." The quote ignited the fandom instantly. People interpreted it as confirmation that Sam had supported Caitriona in ways Tony never had. The drama escalated into international headlines. In the days that followed, Caitriona struggled with the emotional aftermath. She felt torn between protecting her marriage and defending the person who had been her anchor for over a decade. Friends said she appeared overwhelmed yet unapologetic, standing firm in her belief that Sam didn't deserve to be blamed. Her loyalty was unshakable, and she refused to regret the words she had spoken. Tony, however, was left grappling with insecurity, fear, and the painful realization that he had underestimated the depth of Caitriona's connection with Sam. Sources revealed he pulled back emotionally, unsure how to navigate the tension. He questioned whether he and Caitriona could repair the damage or whether the confrontation had opened a wound too deep to close. His silence only fueled more rumors. Meanwhile, Sam himself remained unaware of the full extent of the fight, at least initially. When he learned about the situation through online chatter and calls from close friends, he was reportedly shaken. Sam had always tried to stay respectful of Caitriona's marriage, careful never to overstep or create unnecessary tension. The idea that he had become the core of a marital battle deeply troubled him. Insiders said Sam considered reaching out to Tony directly but hesitated, fearing his involvement might worsen the situation. Instead, he chose to remain quiet, hoping the conflict would settle on its own. That silence, however, only added to the mystery. Fans speculated wildly about his emotional state, believing he was torn between loyalty and guilt. Social media demanded a response, but Sam stayed completely off camera. What happened next only intensified the storyline. Days after the confrontation, Caitriona made a subtle but powerful public move. She posted a photo of her and Sam from an old Outlander event, captioned simply, "Some people are irreplaceable." The internet exploded. The timing was impossible to ignore, and Tony reportedly found the post devastating. The world was left wondering whether Caitriona's gesture was a declaration of independence, a message to Tony, or a quiet show of support for Sam. Fans debated endlessly, but one thing was certain. The clash had exposed truths that had been buried for far too long. The tension between Caitriona and Tony wasn't about one moment. It was the result of years of unresolved feelings and unspoken fears. As the dust settled, no one knew what would happen next. Would the marriage recover? Would Tony confront Sam? Would Caitriona choose boundaries, or loyalty? The questions hung in the air, unanswered, as the historic clash continued to ripple across the world. And in the center of it all, one truth remained. This wasn't just a fight. It was a revelation.